Hi friends, I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be talking to you about all the books I read in the month of March. But first of all, I just wanted to say welcome if you're new here. I presume that you found me via Jen's lovely video. Jen Campbell gave me a little shout out in a recent video of booktubers that you should follow, and yeah, I was so surprised to see my own wee face there. So thanks so much, Jen, and welcome to all the new people that have found my channel, and I hope you enjoy my bookish and Iceland related content. Oh, and bullet journaling. I do bullet journal videos as well. So yeah, welcome. So because I'm quite new to booktube and there are quite a lot of new people now around here, I thought it would be a good opportunity to invite you to ask me a question and maybe do a Q&A video. So stick a question in the comments below. You can ask me anything. It could be about life in Iceland, about life in Scotland or being Scottish. You could ask me about bookish stuff. You could ask me about life outside of booktube, travel, anything at all really. And I'll do like a separate Q&A video and you can kind of get to know me a bit better. I'll also put like a ask me anything sticker up on Instagram. And you can submit questions that way if that's easier for you. But with that being said, let's get on to the books. So March was actually pretty slumpy for me. I finished 6 books, which is a little bit less than my usual kind of reading pace, but I actually DNF'd 7 books. So it was really quite an unusual month in that way. But everything that I did finish, I enjoyed on some level. So it was either 3 stars or above, so that was a good thing, I think. So starting from the top, the first book that I read was This Winter by Alice Oseman. I think this is the first book in the Solitaire series, which I believe comes before the Heartstopper series. And I was quite surprised to find this quite uncomfortable reading and quite difficult reading. It deals quite heavily with eating disorders and mental illness, and maybe it was just hitting a little bit more close to home than other books that I've read from Alice Oseman, but this felt more uncomfortable, and I found myself feeling like some of the themes weren't fully resolved, and so I was left kind of hanging. It is a novella, and I guess it's like a prequel to the Solitaire novel, which I haven't read. But yeah, I was quite surprised to find this uncomfortable reading. Usually I find Alice Oseman's work quite comforting and sweet and lovely, and so this was an entirely different experience, which was interesting. It was quite good to learn the backstories of some of the characters from the Heartstopper series, but I would say this was my least favourite read of the month. So The Only Way Is Up. The second book I read was How We Met by Huma Qureshi, and this is a memoir by a British Muslim woman, and it's kind of all about her experience growing up, and it centres on the love story of her meeting her partner, who's not Muslim at the time that they meet but converts to Islam. This is a very beautiful book about family, love, grief, but it's also a coming of age story in a way, because the author kind of grows up through the memoir, and yeah, it's very beautiful. I actually found it has very simple, straightforward writing, but I found that at times I would just suddenly catch myself, like tears streaming down my face, because it was so moving, and that surprised me, but I totally loved it. I ended up giving this 5 stars, and it's one that I would highly recommend. The next book that I read was She of the Mountains by Vivek Shraya, and this is one that I put on my books to read in 2021 journal list, and yeah, it didn't disappoint. I really love Vivek Shraya's work, and this is just another great piece of literature. So it was short stories. It's very short. I read the audiobook and I think it was about 4 hours possibly, if I remember rightly, but it's a really beautiful collection of short stories covering themes of identity, trauma, love, intimacy and belonging, and it just kind of speaks to the similar themes that I find throughout Shraya's work. To be honest, as soon as I finished this, I immediately thought I might just start this again and read it again, so that was, like, for me, a really good sign. I ended up giving it 4 stars because it wasn't like, it didn't feel like a total favourite, but I did really enjoy it. I then read Love in Colour by Bolu Babalola, and I really enjoyed this one as well. Another collection of short stories. I've actually been reading this one since I think about the start of February, so it's one that I kind of take on my walks and stuff and listen to, and I was really enjoying it. And I think the start of the collection and the end of the collection were the strongest for me. The middle bit was less strong, but I still enjoyed it. I loved the centering of women in the narratives and in the retelling of the stories and the kind of feminist lens that was putting on things. And I also sort of felt very understood as a woman in a very kind of pure, wholesome way, which was just lovely. It felt very like heartwarming. Yeah, I really liked it. There was obviously some stories where I related more to the characters and other ones where I related less or things like that. But just in sum, I thought it was a really beautiful collection. At the end of the collection, there's an author note, and the author explains like the rationale behind the collection and the thought process and the intended meaning, which I really liked. And there's a quote from it that I wrote down because I thought it was very nice. She writes, "It was less about being chosen and more about their agency in allowing themselves to love and be loved." I thought that was lovely, and just very speaks to kind of how wholesome and lovely this whole collection was. So I gave that one 4 stars, and another 4-star read that I had was one that I just downloaded. I think it was Read Now on NetGalley, and I downloaded it on a whim and really liked it. It's a graphic novel and it's called Sprite and the Gardener. It's written by Joe Witt but illustrated by Ree Abrego, I think that's how you say their name. And I gave this one 4 stars, as it says. It was a very lovely, heartwarming graphic novel. It's like about basically community and I guess found family in a way. It's about gardening, and basically these sort of fairy sprites are in charge of gardening, and then that is taken away from them. They're no longer put in charge of that, no longer responsible for it. And then one new sprite joins the community and decides that they want to help and work on the gardens again and restore the magic, I guess. And it was very, very sweet and lovely and wholesome. And if you want some kind of sweet escapism, it was very nice. For me, the gardening scenes were my favourite, and I loved the illustrations. I felt the storytelling was less strong. The definite strength was in the illustration, the visuals, was really pretty. But I will say, although I rated it 4 stars, I feel like it was quite forgettable. I had to kind of go back and remind myself what it'd been about. But yeah, if you want something that just kind of nice, light, easy reading, feel good themes, I would recommend that one. And then finally, at the end of the month, I read Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and I rated this one 3 stars in the end. I was kind of swaying, is it 3 stars, is it 4 stars? And in the end, I decided to rate it 3 stars, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But this is the first sci-fi novel I've ever read. I think anyway. I've read dystopian novels, but not actually sci-fi. And I did really like it. It kept me engrossed for a full 600 pages, which is quite something because I barely ever read books of that length. And I was really intrigued by the space themes and the kind of end of the earth ideas, and the idea that we might, as human beings, go and colonise other planets, because I have heard people talk about that as a potential reality in the future. And so to explore that in fiction was quite interesting to me. I was surprised to like science fiction because I had never considered it as a genre. Like I had no kind of feelings like, oh, I'm not going to read that. I'm always open to reading every genre. But for me, I was surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did, I suppose, and it made me feel like I want to read more science fiction. So it made me think that I should really seek out some sci-fi reviewers online. So if you are a sci-fi reader, reviewer, or you know somebody else who is, and would like to shout them out, I would really appreciate if you left a comment and let me know some people that are worth following in the sci-fi kind of field, to get an idea of other books I might like or to seek out. That would be really helpful. Similarly, if you know of any books that deal with this kind of trope, I guess this end of the earth thing and the future of humanity, what happens next in a space setting, I would really appreciate book recommendations because I am totally out of my depth in the sci-fi genre. So I would be interested to hear from you. I say that like I'm not always interested to hear from you. I'm always interested to hear if you have recommendations on the back of anything that I say or say that I'm enjoying. I am always looking for recommendations, so never be shy about them. But yeah, my issue with Children of Time was actually to do with near the start, I would say, I think maybe the first 100 pages, there is like ableist language used, and I'm not even sure ableist is the right word because it's just derogatory. Basically the word cripple is used, and it just didn't sit right with me, and it didn't sit right at the time of reading, and then as I thought about it and the book kind of like brewed, I guess, I just felt more and more uncomfortable with that. And it was unnecessary at the time that it was included. So why was it included? Didn't sit right at all. There are other content warnings, and if you would like to see them, I've put them on Storygraph, which is I do for every review, but I've kind of talked more in detail there about them. So if that's something you would like, I would also say that one of the points of views of this book was from a spider. So I was going to pass it on to my partner initially, and then I was like, oh goodness, he will not enjoy reading about spiders. So yeah, bear that in mind if you don't like spiders. So that's everything that I read in March, and I'm going into April kind of open-minded and hopeful that I'll have a good reading month. My favourites of the month were How We Met and She of the Mountains. These were just standouts and the kind of books I will think about and remember, no doubt. I might return even to She of the Mountains at some point because there was a lot of rich themes in there and I would probably like to sit with them a bit longer. I wanted to say as well, I forgot to say at the start, I intended this month to take part in Irish Readathon, but I technically did actually. I started one book and ended up DNFing it because there was a very, very strange shower scene which was just the epitome of creepy. A daughter, I think it's the daughter, anyways, a young teenage girl is watching this kind of father figure in the shower. And I was like, ooh. And we were only like 30 pages in, and I just thought, oh, I don't even want to know where this is going to go if that's where this starts. Do you know what I mean? That was Orchid and the Wasp, I think it is called. So that was an Irish author. And then I am currently reading Don't Touch My Hair, which is fantastic. Like, I think I'd be very, very surprised if that wasn't a 5-star read. I feel like I'm learning a lot in reading it. So hopefully I will finish that into April, and that will probably feature in my April wrap up. So I'm a bit disappointed I didn't finish any books for Irish Readathon, but I did take part and I am enjoying Don't Touch My Hair. So yeah, so that's really all for this wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. Do let me know below if you have read any of the books that I talked about, and leave your comments for the Q&A. I would love to hear from you. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.